Has Gingrich's campaign imploded after key advisors jumped ship? Could Texas Governor Rick Perry be positioning himself for a run?
Who's in and who's still on the fence. So here's who you have who are in, at least for now. We talked about Senator Santorum, but it's the on the fence crowd as well that's pretty interesting. That's where the action is. Huntsman, Palin, Giuliani was up in New Hampshire taking on Mitt Romney, Michelle Bachmann, and now Rick Perry, who may fill some of that space that Gingrich occupied because some of those advisors from Gingrich could go to him. How do you see it?
Look, I think what everyone has missed here, there's so much conversation about who can beat President Obama next year, that what has been missed a little bit is that conservatives and grassroots activists out there, you got to look at the history of the Republican Party over the past 10 years, which has been very bad indeed. You know, they lost their way, overspending, were kicked out. They won last year, but mostly because they were a choice, not necessarily because of what they offered. Conservatives are looking for a leader, and that's why you have such an unsettled field.
I narrowed it down to about four. The four governors, former governors, the Mitch Daniels, Haley Barbour, Tim Pawlenty, and Mitt Romney, and two of them have dropped out, so they're down to two. If Rick Perry decides to get in, I'll feel comfortable putting him in the mix, but my support will probably go to one of those.
How about Rick Perry, you brought him up, former Texas, current Texas Republican governor?
I don't know. I honestly, up until last week's resignation from the Gingrich camp, was absolutely positive he wasn't going to run, because all the people that he would use to run were working for Gingrich. They're not working for Gingrich anymore.
You said existing because Perry could be it.
He could be. You could have somebody that we've sort of been talking about, but people have indicated not going to run, like a Governor Chris Christie or even a Paul Ryan, get into the race later on. I think that's probably unlikely. So of the existing candidates, Tim Pawlenty would probably be the strongest challenger to Mitt Romney. If the Texas governor, Rick Perry, decides to get in, Dagan, as you mentioned, very strong economic record in Texas, major job creation going even in the depths of this recession.
Creating more jobs than any other state.
37% of all new jobs created over the course of this recession happened in Texas. Why? Small government, no state income tax, low regulatory burden. That kind of record could go a very far way in a Republican primary field as well as a general election.
And if you watch the Democrats, this market, this economy could put them on the ropes and fast.
If you're Mitt Romney, who was leading the pack, to the extent that anyone is leading anything at this point, and you had presumably not playing in Iowa has a greater impact than Newt Gingrich, who was not leading the pack, to put it mildly. But by both of them choosing these unorthodox paths, do they leave an opening for anybody else?
They do, and in Iowa in particular, the question in Iowa is, what is the electorate like? And that's what, in politics, people always fight the last campaign, and so there's a lot of talk that Iowa is just like it was in 2008, a lot of social conservatives who care about gay marriage and abortion, and that's their first issue. The question for Romney is whether it's the same there, those evangelical voters are not his natural constituency, or whether it's changed, and a lot of Iowans say it has changed. And so the question, but your initial question is, does this create an opening? It creates an opening for Tim Pawlenty, who's running to compete against Romney. Of course, it also creates a big challenge for him. If he doesn't do well in this straw poll, then everybody will say, wait a minute, particularly those who might write him checks, will say, wait a minute, you're not really a contender for Romney. You couldn't even do it in the straw poll when you didn't really have the big dog competing.
And it creates an opening for Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, if he decides to get into the race.
That's right. Rick Perry is back in the news, and party's in the news because he's flirting a little bit with running, although you get mixed signals from his campaign. There is this feeling still in the Republican Party that there are not enough candidates running. They want another Superman to come flying in. Rick Perry also has some of his top political advisors were working for Newt Gingrich. Now they're gone, so they're available now to work for Rick Perry. So, and one thing in Iowa this week where I was reporting, you would hear people bring up Rick Perry's name. They don't bring up Sarah Palin's name, actually. They were saying, hey, maybe Perry might get in. I'm going to think about him.